This tutorial talks about using the verb ir to talk about future actions. If you have not already watched the ir tutorial that talks about the different forms of ir and using the verb ir to talk about going to a location, you should watch that video before you watch this one. Just a quick review of that video though, the verb ir is used for two different things. It's used to talk about going to a location, and it's used to talk about going to do something. So in this sense we're talking about movement, in this sense we're talking about future actions. Here are the forms of ir which we learned in the other tutorial, and we'll keep these on the screen so that we can refer to them as we go through this one. When I say that we're going to be talking about future actions, I'm talking about things that we're going to do. In English lots of times we shorten that to say gonna. So anytime you would say I am gonna do that, or they're gonna do this, or whatever, that's when we use ir plus the infinitive in Spanish. Before we take a look at some practice sentences, it is important for us to know also what an infinitive is. An infinitive is a verb that is in its original form. An infinitive is normally going to end with ar, er, or ir. So let's take a look at just a couple of those. For instance, we have hablar. That's an infinitive because we have not conjugated that verb yet. Comer is an infinitive, vivir. So when we see a verb like this in this original form before we cut off the ar, er, or ir, that's an infinitive. In English, an infinitive would have to in front of it. So hablar is to talk, comer is to eat, vivir is to live. In Spanish, this is what infinitives look like. So again, our three parts to talk about things that we're gonna do are a conjugated form of the verb ir, the word a, and an infinitive, a verb in its original form. Let's put a couple of example activities on the screen here. Clean the house, study, and read a book. And we'll use those examples to write some sentences. Here's our first example. I'm going to clean the house. Again, when we're speaking, we'd actually maybe say I'm gonna clean the house, but we know that it's really I am going to clean the house. So clean the house is limpiar la casa. We'll be using that. To say I am going to, our first part of course is ir, so we have yo, and we need the yo form of the verb, which is voy. So yo voy. Then we have to have the word a, and in this case it doesn't actually translate into anything in English, but we still have to have it because that's just the rule in Spanish. Then we need our infinitive, which we see is limpiar. And then la casa just means the house, so we need that just to complete our phrase here. Yo voy a limpiar la casa. Of course, if we were just saying I'm going to clean, we could take out la casa, and we would just have yo voy a limpiar. But if we want to say I'm going to clean the house, we have to have that full phrase. Let's look at another example. They're going to study. This time, of course, we'll start with they, ellos. We need a conjugated form of ir. For ellos, it would be van. Then, of course, we need the word a. And then to study, we can see here is estudiar. So ellos van a estudiar. We conjugate ir, we put the word a in there, not because it translates to anything, but just because that's the rule, and we put an infinitive, a verb in its original form. One more example, you are going to read a book. You is to. Then we need the to form of ir, which is vas. Of course we need the word a, because that's just one of the steps. And then to read is leer, and then a book is un libro. So tu vas a leer un libro. Tu vas a leer un libro. You are going to read a book. So again, the three steps for talking about future actions are to conjugate the verb ir, take the correct form of the verb ir, put the word a, which does not really translate into English, and put an infinitive, whatever the verb is, the activity that we are going to do.